You're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria live on NTA's network. Better Zuma Film Festival, laced with investment opportunities in the nation's creative economy, is the promise from the organizers of the festival this year. So it's showtime, and let's talk business, Kirian, with Showbiz.
All right, let's now welcome to the program our guests this morning for this particular topic. And first, let me introduce Dr. Chidia Maduekwe. He's the Managing Director, Chief Executive, Nigerian Film Corporation, and Chairman, Zuma Film Festival Central Planning Committee. Good morning, sir, and welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right, we also have here in the studio with us Mr. Terence Komalo, Monitoring and Evaluation Manager, National Film and Video Foundation, South Africa. We're glad to have you join us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for the invitation.
All right. Also on the program this morning is international filmmaker, director, and producer Apolline Traore. She's from Burkina Faso. And it's our pleasure to welcome you again to Good Morning Nigeria. I recall we had you a couple of years ago on the program, and also while you were a guest at the Zuma Film Festival. Welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
All right, so let's begin the conversation straight away with you.
Okay.
What has brought you back to Nigeria for the Zuma Festival?
Well, it's to celebrate film for this festival. I think that the Zuma Film Festival is doing something great this year to try to merge Francophone filmmaking and Anglophone filmmaking. And that's why I'm here. I'm also a jury member for this festival. So I watch a lot of films, a lot of them, so that we're going to judge and then also give awards this Saturday. So that's what brought me to the Zuma Festival this year.
All right, so we also know what brought Mr. Terence Komalo to Nigeria with respect to this Zuma Film Festival. Komalo, why are you here?
We have a strong relationship with the Nigerian film industry, and as you know, we have just signed the audiovisual co-production treaty with Nigeria in December during the binational between Nigeria and South Africa. So this is an opportunity to promote that agreement and to, as the MD says, to consummate the relationship and ensure that we have activities coming out of the agreement and not just have agreement as a paper.
Okay, I'm sorry to jump in there, Terence. Thanks. Dr. Madueke, Managing Director of Film Corporation. We've had you from time to time on the Zuma Festival, usually when it's coming up. So what's new this year, and what's also the cause for having it earlier, if I would say, than usual?
Thank you. What's new is that government is...
All right, I'm sure that's part of the film festival. So we'll take that. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
I was just trying to, okay, that was a skit for the film festival. And the MD of the Film Corporation is then trying to wait for the next shot to come. And then he returns now to set, facing our camera. Roll.
So what's new is that government is working their talks and concern about job creation, about creating an opportunity whereby our youth will migrate away from situation whereby they are not employed into where they're employable. What's new is that for the very first time, Zuma Film Festival is being held with the collaboration of FCT, Federal Capital Territory Administration, whereby Abuja has been designated as the host city, which means that, like it happens with other countries where you have film festival, there is greater interest, participation, and investment by government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that has resulted to what you see today, like cross-border, presence from South Africa, from Burkina Faso, from Kenya and Israel and other countries. That is with a view to grow the film festival in Abuja to global standard. You are aware that FESPACO in Burkina Faso is the most prestigious film festival in Africa, where our partner is coming from. So by the time we tap into what has been going on with the Francophone countries in their film festival and FESPACO, we will be in a position leveraging on partnership MOU signed with South Africa and one coming on with Kenya to refocus Abuja as a continental platform for film festivals in Africa, which is more than overdue as to where we are supposed to be. So that is what excitedly is new, this ZUP 12th edition.
Why so early in the calendar?
Actually, it's not early, it's belated. Why I say belated, it's supposed to hold first week in December, but because of the collaboration I mentioned with Federal Capital Territory, it has to be shifted because the collaboration came late in the year. So we had to move it to this time. So we hope from next year we can get back into our calendar.
Okay, one would wonder why the theme for this year's festival, show the money, right? So, what is the philosophy behind this theme, and what is the target of the theme?
Yeah, like I mentioned in my opening statement, that government is trying to walk their talk to create jobs. So this is an agency of government in the creative sector, and most of the time people don't really understand that it is the low-hanging fruits that can create a lot of jobs for our teeming youth, and that the content is key. And so when this content is made, there is money, that can come from it. So we want to emphasize the fact that people can be well creators by investing more in the creative industry. That is why the theme. And part of the annual lecture will be as to what the benefit of turning Abuja into a filming location. Government has invested so much in infrastructure in Abuja. So by the time you have location incentives and rebates, people will start coming to Abuja as a film location, and then they will make the money, and the country will make the money, and the country will have their young ones employable.
Okay, we have two foreign nationals who are here with us, Apolline and Terence. So we don't want to localize this conversation, but you will permit me to also raise the next point with the managing director of the Film Corporation. What the vision, you say, is to turn Abuja into a film center for the continent and a good location. I'm wondering, how does that square with the whole idea of revitalizing the National Theatre Complex in Lagos and turning it into a creative hub? We had the Minister of Information here a couple of weeks ago, and they talked about the vast improvements and investments by the Bankers Committee, spending some $100 million to build new creative centers. The question is, how does this square with that plan, which is ongoing?
It is all in line. There's a handshake there. By the time the investment going on at the National Theatre is completed, it's going to be a super creative hub whereby people will be trained in skills as to how to manage the knowledge they have acquired. But you also understand that it's about the entire nation. We are not locating our capacity just in Lagos or anywhere, because the Nigerian Film Corporation is to develop and galvanize the film industry nationwide. Government have equally spent so much in this beautiful capital here in Abuja. And like any other capital or any other city like Cape Town, we definitely have reached a location that can be tapped into. So those who have acquired those knowledge from the creative hub in coming up at the Lagos, at the National
Theatre,
they can come to Abuja, They can have partnership with foreign producers and use Abuja as a location to shoot television series, feature film, documentaries, as the case may be. So it is all working together. They are not isolated. Like I said, government is working their talk to enable agencies of government to make the environment interesting for young people to find their skill.
Okay, Apollo, you've been here before, on Zuma Film Festival.
No, I was here, but it wasn't for Zuma.
It wasn't for Zuma?
No.
All right. Okay, because I was going to ask you what was your experience at that time, and what you were expecting to, to take back home, this time around that you're here in Nigeria. But since you have been here before, I'm sure it's connected to filming, or films and other aspects of video recording to respect to entertainment and what have you. Now that you're back here at this festival, what are your expectations, in terms of relationship between Burkina Faso filmmakers and Nigerian filmmakers? And of course, do you intend to invest in a film festival in Nigeria?
I mean, first of all, what our francophone filmmaking is trying to get from the experience of the Nigerian and also the Anglophone is even the way filmmaking are made in this country. We francophone have another way of making film, which is really heavy, which has required a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time. So in that sense, we are not able to make film as fast as Nigeria. And then we always take the reference, and everybody has been telling us, look at how Nigerians is doing making film. Because, I mean, our filmmaking can take for one film 3 months, just for the production. And then for the editing, we are going for 5, 6 months. And so you will spend a year making just one film. So the growth of capitalizing a film in our country and even in the Francophone area is very, very slow, and it requires a lot of money. You can spend 5 years looking for the money. But we are trying to merge with Nigerian filmmaking to actually know, and then trying to get the tools to be a little bit quicker, and then to actually make film that would probably less expensive, because of course we have the heritage of France. So that's the way we know how to make film. So me being here, and every time I'm coming back here to Abuja or Nigeria, is really to see how we can cope. Like 3 weeks ago, I was in the film with a Nigerian filmmaker who actually we were co-directing this film, because he was working on this film in Nigeria and in Ivory Coast and in Burkina. So by merging our talent together, he was able to see how we do work in the Francophone area and vice versa. So this is my main coming back again and working with the Zuma Film Festival, is really to merge those two ways of making films.
Well, that's very interesting. I mean, you were talking about broadly speaking, the divergences between Anglophone filmmaking, in particular Nigerian filmmaking, and Francophone filmmaking. It's an issue that I will return to presently. But Terence Kumalo, Show the Money is the theme for the Zuma Film Festival this year. Is it necessarily the case that African filmmakers have not sufficiently explored the economics of this creative industry? Namely, sometimes you find these are low-budget films that get produced, and the big-time or big-ticket films that ordinarily would come on don't get the sponsors. Is it that Africans and African investors have not been able to, as it were, locate the key into this investment opportunity?
Definitely yes, because we have not realized the magnitude or the importance of IP, especially within the sector. That's one. And the other thing is that private investors or private sector regards or views the industry as highly risky. As my colleague has said, that making a film takes a long time. For instance, a product can take up to 10 years for you to to recoup your investment. So from that point of view, investors shy away, and then they view it as a risky. And then why invest in such a business where you can do something that will give you returns early? That's one. And two is that it's also correct that most filmmakers have not approached the craft or the art in a sense of a business making, but from an art point of view. So now it's that time where you have to now look at it as a business and not just a film for the sake of entertainment, but you also realize that you are in the business of entertainment and not just entertainment business. So the theme is actually very relevant, and then it also now shows that the shift in how we used to do things, and now we need to start moving to the next level to ensure that, as the MTA said, not only job creation, but only also becoming an economic driver.
Okay, now moving it to the next level. So Nigeria is ranked high, in terms of capacity, and capability in film making. I guess he has also, adduced to that. Are you satisfied, with the quality of the kind of films that Nigerian producers churn out? And if the answer is yes, and they're looking forward to the Zuma Film Festival, do we have strategies already put in place, to attract investors? Because if I understand the theme, part of the target is to attract investors in the industry. What are those strategies put in place to ensure that investors will now, feel safe actually investing in the film industry?
Yeah, in terms of quality, there will always be room for improvement. But I will say that if Nigerian films are not that highly rated, then it won't be highly in demand. So, quality is relative. A certain ecosystem will adjudge certain quality as satisfactory, and then when you move to the next level of consideration, it probably may shortfall that standard, as the case may be. So I would say that for Nigerian films to be in market the way they are measuring up with quality, but definitely there's room for improvement so that they can win Oscars. Then, in terms of what needs to be done in creating the interest, the traction, that's why I said the annual film lecture, which will coming up tomorrow, is going to focus on what are going to be things like incentives, rebates, location incentives, which can be which can be the hook, which can attract investors to say, okay, now they have tax rebate, now they have location incentives. Let us spend money in Nigeria or in Abuja, as the case may be. You are aware that here in Abuja there had been a film village in the pipeline for a long time. So part of this collaboration between FCTA and Nigerian Film Corporation, and like she said, our planned collaboration with people from other parts of the world, is to see how we can move the idea of the Abuja Film Village from being on the drawing board to where it's supposed to be. So all this could be a way of driving investment and incentive to Nigeria, to Abuja, as case may be.
All right, thank you very much. So back again to Apolline Traore. Earlier you were talking about the move mentally now towards a convergence of the Francophone way of filmmaking and then the Anglophone way of filmmaking. I was just wondering, bringing in the economics of it and then the art of it, what are those key differences that can be meshed or learned from one another, and say, look, oh, well, the Francophone, they have easier access to capital, and this is the way they do it. The Anglophone, they have tougher access to capital, and these are the new opportunities they could create.
For getting the capital, one of the things that we were able to do this year, there is an organization called OEF that only give money for Francophone filmmaking. But if you co-produce or if you co-direct with an Anglophone director, you can actually get that money. So that's what we did for the film that I worked with. So we merged by co-directing this film. It was actually his film, but they came to me and then I co-directed, and then we were able to get the Francophone money into that film. So this is one of the things that we were able to do for the first time actually this year. This is one thing. And then the other thing that we're trying to do also is to try to reduce, in our filmmaking, there's so many people on the set. Very, very a lot of people. And then
That's Francophone.
That's Francophone. It's very a lot. And we have a quota that you cannot go lower when you pay them. So that means that everybody has to be paid a certain way. So of course the budget would go up. But if you have a little budget and then you can actually manage to make a film and produce a film in 2-3 weeks, that will help you make more film in a year with less money. And this is what we are not being able to do for now. But even if the Francophone are doing some of those films that are low budget film, it only stays in locally. It doesn't go up because the quality is not good, because of and so many things. So those are the things that we are trying to get from each other, from the Francophone and then from the Anglophone, to actually not only trying to get money from the places that one of us cannot go, and to reduce our expenses.
That's one thing I'd like to understand, from you professionals, and let me go to Terence Kumalo. When we talk about filmmaking, is there any difference between filmmaking and drama production? I would like to clarify this issue, because when you say film, if you watch films produced from the Western world, you tend to see some razzmatazz, some FPZ and what have you. Unlike what we package in Africa as films. I want to understand that difference, filmmaking, drama production, and what have you, because it does have a lot to say about the quality of what we have here and its acceptability, across the globe. So, Terence, I want to add this to that. What is the relationship between South African filmmakers and Nigerian filmmakers? And as my colleague raised the issue of the economics of it, how does the filmmakers, or how do filmmakers in South Africa attract, investors? Is it as difficult as it is down here in Nigeria? And from this Zuma festival that is going to take place, are you going to have a forum where both filmmakers from both countries are going to liaise and, of course, form a formidable force, towards attracting investors in the industry?
This year it's more of a fact-finding mission, but next year hopefully we'll have a delegation of South African filmmakers at a festival to interact with the Nigerian counterparts. However, coming back to the issue of the relationship, it's very strong, and it's been going on for years now. For instance, there's one production that was shot. It's an unofficial co-production between South Africa and Nigeria. It was shot in Lagos now in January, and the South African leg was last year. And there have been a number of other South African filmmakers working with their Nigerian counterparts, either co-producing or on a distribution level. Then in terms of funding, the South African government is actually the biggest funder of film in South Africa. It's about
Why is that so?
Partly because to the statement I made earlier, that the private sector views the industry as too risky, and as a result, government has made financial instruments available in the form of grants and then recoupable investment through different agencies. One, it's ours, the National Film and Video Foundation, and there are other government departments and agencies as well, which play in that space. And the reason for that is to ensure that our government has realized the potential of film being a key economic driver to the contribution of GDP in the country.
All right, Terence, thank you very much. That's, Kieran, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Yes, to
the
talk about
government funding.
government. Yeah, but one of the sources of funding you said is a foundation. That is to say, probably not the annual budget of the government. Is that correct, Terence?
Oh no, don't be the name foundation. It's actually the Film Commission. It's the organization, the agency I work for. It's called the National Film and Video Foundation. So we always have to explain that no, we're not a non-governmental organization. We're actually a government agency.
Agency.
It's just the name.
Equivalent
It's
of the
the
Nigerian
equivalent
Film
of
Corporation.
NFC, actually.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much. But still, that's an interesting perspective that you have raised. I mean, there are many avenues here that could be explored also for Nigerian filmmakers. Back again to Apolline Traore. One concern, and I don't know how this works out between Francophone and Anglophone, storylines. Some critics have been hard on some of the films that come out from Anglophone, too much rituals and undefined stories and so on and so forth. So, what is the perspective from the Francophone viewpoint in terms of storylines, and what does the market want, and how do you compare that, with Anglophone, and what might change or what might be learned from the other?
What is the audience wants? I think that the first thing that they're looking for is entertainment. That's one thing. The Francophone today are very, very big in Hollywood film, to tell you the truth. Very one. It's been like that for a couple of years now. And in terms of content, it really depends of how it's brought up. You know what I mean? There are certain what that you mentioned. It's the way that you're going to bring it, and it's the way that you are going to actually tell the stories, and that can be very interesting. We have another way of telling stories, and then we also had a lot of problems in certain times that where we've been criticized to call our filmmaking. How am I going to translate that in English? It's a film calebasse. Calebasse is that little. Yes. So all of the films that were made in the village, they were saying, okay, that's enough. Africa is not about only that.
Calabash, that's right.
Exactly. And we were fighting a lot with that by saying this stays in our culture. Every other countries or every other culture in the world have made their point and have made it through this industry by showing them culture. Our culture is not about guns. It's not about build big exactly, but it is part of our lives today, but it's not our culture. And then African films are really struggling to actually be in that top of the industry of filmmaking. Because of that, I think, this is my perspective, and this is the way I feel about it. But unless we are going to actually show our culture and impose, that's the very big, impose our culture, we are not going to be able to be in that front line with other filmmaking.
But our culture, Kirian, isn't calabash, isn't all calabash. No. I mean, Dr. Madueke, I mean, it's our culture isn't all calabash. I mean, there are aspects of our culture. I'm sure you will require some social anthropology to get into this. I don't know how much of that intellectual content does come in. Our culture is way beyond. Our culture doesn't encourage laziness.
I think
our culture doesn't encourage, get rich quick schemes.
Yeah, I think I've been able to really work with some producers in the past. Filmmakers, drama producers, and what have you. And they tell you that look, they get the storyline from what is existential in the society. That is not because the stories come from people who also from that same cultural, yes. So that's what happens. And so when she talks about calabash, it's about going to the village where we do films, not necessarily buildings that look like buildings in the cities and what have you. So, and if you watch some Indian films, really, they're highly cultural, about 100% cultural. That's what she's trying to raise. And that brings me to the issue of content development in Nigeria. Does it really affect sponsorship or investments in this area? Because some persons would like to say, look, I'll invest my money in a film that will cut across the globe in terms of marketing, because marketing could be limited to, the kind of content that you are trying to push across. But after all said and done, filmmaking is about content.
Yeah. In answering this question, we will like to go back to how we evolve. That's Nollywood. And we took from what was unique or what we considered unique, to our own content in terms of, though it could be a very small, subset of our culture, but we knew that there were those kind of, negative vibes in the society, get rich quick. It's not the way we live, most of us, but we know that there had been that kind of story. So those making those films felt that if they take it up, it could help them generate revenue quickly. And so they kind of focused in that area and used it to start. And it seems to have stuck now. We are trying to win them away from that because it's sending back a different narrative in the system. So that could help in their own way of raising money. And up until now, you couldn't say, well, that is why you may have an investor coming in to put money or not. But that was how they were able to raise money to sponsor their filmmaking culture. I mean, our own, filmmakers here, because there were no money coming from the equivalent of NFC, like the man from South Africa have just said. There was no money coming from the bank, or the bank rates were too high. So they needed to sell their land or borrow money from uncles and turn out films that can have rapid return on investment. And that's where we find ourselves, but we are moving away from there to make it.
For me to add to about what the gentleman have said, those film calibers is necessary to keep our culture going. It's not about not doing it anymore, because that's what the criticism was, to stop doing that, and this doesn't represent our culture. I think that as a filmmaker, you need to have the choice to make what you want to do and how you want to represent your culture and how you want to tell your story, but not by putting barriers and saying, okay, now African filmmaker has to do this way. They have to talk about film in the buildings and the sky high. There's so many other stories to be told, but to say not to do this anymore because Africa has evolved, we still have the villages, we still have the calibers, we still have that culture, and I think that this also needs to be told and then to share it to the world.
No question about that. I mean, Apolline, I agree with you that that story needs to be told. We don't have enough time to proceed with this conversation further. But Terence, when you look at the African continent and the many stories that are yet to be told about ourselves, isn't it, again, looking at the economics of it, for us to try and satisfy our own market before we start saying we want to shoot to, if you say, the stars or being on the international scene? I want to see more of our stories, and there are existential matters that we can deal with, even minus the calabash. Or, as you say in South Africa, the Sangomas and Nangas.
Look, it's moving away from stereotypes because we don't want to be pigeonholed in a certain way. There's so many stories Africa can tell, and not be driven into a certain direction and only tell this type of stories. We can tell any type of story we want. We can tell a story about our village. We can adapt a book. We can tell a story about our children. There's so many to tell those stories. But within that context, still ensure that those stories make money either at the box office or they get sold in other markets.
All right. The bottom line is money making.
Well, yeah, money making, but money making. One point that Terence just made now, I would like Dr. Madueke to speak very briefly. We said we can tell our stories from a wide variety of sources, essentially books. But here we are, how many books are being written and published each year, and how many of such books are being adapted into stories, to say by way of film? I think that's an area you may wish to explore going forward. Quickly?
Yeah. Well, probably what is happening that we're just coming up with short scripts. You know, people come with storylines, not necessarily adapting from existing books. I wouldn't really know why it is so, but I think the issue here is money, trying to get started, and because of funding.
All right. I remember that the NTA also did a lot. You know, when we sponsored the Things Fall Apart.
Things Fall Apart, that's right.
You know,
That was
and,
an opus by Chinua Achebe.
about the last major books, that have been
Adapted.
acted as a film. And on that note, gentlemen and lady, we call it a day on this edition of the program. First, let's thank our visitors, who have been here with us. Mr. Torrance Komalo, Monitoring and Evaluation Manager, National Film and Video Foundation, South Africa. We're glad you are here, and we hope you're going to enjoy yourself while you stay here in Abuja, the capital of Nigeria. Also, would like to thank Apolline Traore, who is not here for the first time. You've been around, so you were around. Yes. Thank you for returning to our Good Morning program. All right, and of course the Managing Director and Chief Executive, Nigerian Film Corporation of Nigeria and Chairman, Zuma Film Festival Central Planning Committee, Dr. Chidia Maduekwe. We salute you for being here this morning.
Thank you once again.
All right.
All right, so that's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Look after yourselves. I am Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kiwi. You have a great day.